Hello, Deductors, and welcome to the first edition of Office Hours with Dr. Kensley Beal, where it's another day, another hour, another USA Gymnastics Senior Selection Committee minutes that have left us with more questions than answers. So if you are left scratching and racking your brain like I am, we're going to sit down and we're going to have a chat about: did they follow the selection procedures? Did they not follow the selection procedures? And what can they do to make it better in the future? Following the 2025 Winter Cup held in Louisville, Kentucky, there were 5 spots left on the senior national team to be added by discretionary selection. As a disclaimer, this is not about the athletes who I'm about to talk about. They went out on the competition floor and they did their job and they competed to the best of their ability. This is about the confusion that comes with these senior selection committee minutes and our curiosity to if they are actually following the stated criteria that they have laid out for us. I'll repeat, this is not about the athletes. There is nothing against the athletes that I am about to talk about. Again, we are discussing the senior selection committee minutes and the senior selection committee procedures so that we can get more clarity and more forthcomingness from them to the athletes, to the coaches, and to the media. Ahead of the 2025 Winter Cup, coaches and athletes were given these directives of what the priority order for discretionary selection was. So as you can see, first priority was having availability to go to the World Cups or DTB Cups from Winter Cup. The second was event final placement. The third was D-score at Winter Cup. The fourth was international experience. And the fifth was senior developmental team needs. When the U.S. senior national team was named, I had a couple of questions as to why some of the event winners had been left off of the senior national team when it was stated that that was the number 2 priority for discretionary selection. So I sent an email to USA Gymnastics to ask them about their discretionary selection procedures, and they told me that I would find out the answers that I needed in the senior selection committee minutes that were going to be coming out later this week. Hey, if you would you please take a moment to like this video and subscribe? It really helps others out. It helps them find neutral deductions. It helps them learn more about men's gymnastics, and it helps to financially support this channel so that we can go to more meets and bring you better coverage live. Today, the Senior Selection Committee minutes came out, and I actually have more questions than answers. So the Senior Selection Committee started out great when it comes to the discretionary selection. The first person that they decided to add to the senior national team was Brandon Dang, who won pommel horse, and he was tied for the highest difficulty score across the board at Winter Cup on pommel horse. So this meets all of their stated criteria, and he would be an excellent candidate to fulfill one of the World Cup assignments. By that reasoning, you would think that the other 2 athletes who fulfill that criteria, which was Colt Walker and Nardi Brady, would be the next 2 people added to the senior national team. Colt Walker and Nardi Brady won parallel bars and vault respectively, and both had the highest difficulty score on those events. The next person that they decided to name to the senior national team was Jean Iwe, and this is because they needed to fill a team spot for the DTB Cup in Stuttgart, Germany. And this is okay because this sort of fits in with the A tier of needing to be able to fill upcoming international assignments. So then we get to the third spot, and this third spot they decided to give to Patty Hoops, who got second on pommel horse and then was also tied for the highest D score of the event. This is odd. Now, again, this is not to say that Patty isn't an excellent choice or that he won't fulfill this spot really well for Team USA, but the B priority was event final ranking. So they chose Patty above Colt Walker, Nardi Brady, and Crew Bold, all who had won their event, which is a higher priority tier than D-score or previous international assignment. The fourth person that they decided to name via discretionary criteria was Colt Walker. I think Colt Walker's a great choice. He fulfills all of those requirements that were stated. He had availability to go, check, that's A. For B, he was the event winner, check. C was event difficulty score, check. He had the highest D score there. Fourth, he had international assignment. Like, he literally meets all the criteria. So like no complaints there, all good to go. So then we get to spot number 5, and this is where things get really, really odd in my opinion. So the 5th person that they decide to name to the senior national team is Alex Diab. Why? So the Alex Diab got second on still rings. He did have the highest difficulty score in still rings, but he still placed second. So at this point, they're leaving off two people who have placed first on their events, Nardi Brady and Crew Bold. And the reason that they're giving is prior international assignment. Word for word, it says, the senior selection committee supported Alex for the final national team spot due to his prior international experience as a World Cup finalist and World Championships team member, along with his consistency across both days of competition. Now, his prior international experience, that's priority D. There's priority order, A, B, C, D. Like, this is what we learn in kindergarten, okay? And then along with his consistency wasn't a criteria that they laid out. I don't understand how this was the selection mate. This is nothing against Alex. He is a fantastic gymnast. What I don't understand is, so they go through, okay, we looked at Nardi, Crew, and Alex to fulfill the final spot and who could make finals. So they said Nardi had won the event and had the highest D score on vault. So he's available, he won the event, and he has the highest difficulty score. But the reason he wasn't chosen is because he's a junior national team member and was named to the DTB challenge team. Well, my question is, and we don't necessarily know the answer, was he given an option? Because if not, that sounds like he wasn't named to the senior national team because of his age. Because of those three athletes that they named, he was the most qualified. It says so in their own selection document. So what I want to know, was Nardi told that he was going to be in contention for the senior national team, and did he himself and he and his coach turn that assignment down for junior DTB and maybe junior worlds later this year? Because you can't compete in both divisions internationally. You do have to choose. Because to me, it sounds like he was the most qualified. He was more qualified than Crew and more qualified than Alex. So that's an unanswered question we have. The next unanswered question is, why was Crew Bold overlooked? So Crew won his event, which again was tier B, priority B. His coach put on Instagram for priority A that he was available to go on these assignments. And it says in the D-score notes that Crew's D-score was tied for the second highest of Winter Cup, and all three athletes, Alex, Nardi, and Crew, would have achieved scores that would have qualified to finals at the Coppus World Cup. Okay, so the senior selection committee chose to overlook priority B, the event winner, in favor of priority D, prior international assignment. Well, okay, so people may say it's discretionary criteria. They can do whatever the heck they want. I would say if they hadn't listed selection criteria in priority order, then yes, they can choose whomever they want for whatever reason that they want. But if they're trying to have more transparency for the coaches and the athletes, and they give them this directive that says, this is the priority order that we're considering, and then you just choose to overlook athletes for prior international experience, okay, well, how are athletes supposed to get prior international experience if you're repeatedly looking over the up-and-comers because they don't have prior international experience? It's like when you go for a job interview and you've never had a job because you've come right out of college, and they're like, we can't hire you because you don't have any experience. And you're like, well, how am I supposed to get experience if no one's going to hire me? That's exactly what's happening here. So I found this all extremely confusing. I sent this to 3 of my friends who are both gymnasts and are lawyers. They agree this is extremely confusing. I know for a fact coaches and athletes have found this document confusing. And here's the thing. What really matters is it needs to be clear to the athletes and it needs to be clear to the coaches how their athletes are going to be able to make the senior national team. And if everyone knows those final spots are just whoever the committee's favorites are, That's what it is. But if they're going to try again and bring in more transparency, then I think, in my opinion, they need to actually follow this stated priority order. I am completely and totally unconvinced by this prior international experience for Alex Diab over giving it to Nardi, who is simply young, or Crew, who actually won his event. And you can sit here and say, right, oh, well, Alex's D score is more competitive than Crew's D score. That is absolutely true. But they put D score as priority 3, not priority 2. Priority 2 was who was the event winners. So again, it's not making sense, and I don't like it. So I have sent a follow-up email to USA Gymnastics Communication to ask them why, based on the available information, the Senior Selection Committee did not follow their written quote-unquote priority order by naming Alex Diab to the senior national team based on, quote, international experience, which is priority D, over Nardi or Crew, who won their respective events, which was priority B. Hopefully I will hear back in a timely manner, and I will be able to update you on why they chose this selection procedure over something else. I think the reason that this is most frustrating for me is I set up the men's program committee with a lawyer who has a daughter in gymnastics. She is an appellate court lawyer, a very high-ranking judge, and she had gotten pro bono permission from her law firm to help the men's program committee set up these documents. And the reason I did this is because when I was meeting with the leadership of the men's program, they kept saying, we're just coaches, like we're not administrators, we're not lawyers. And I was like, yeah, you're right, you're not. So let's set you up with someone who can actually help you create documents that make sense. And it is my understanding that USA Gymnastics told them that they had to use their in-house counsel. I don't know if they are actually following that, but what I can tell you is that these documents are not as clear as they need to be. The media should not be confused how national teams are being selected. The athletes and the coaches absolutely for sure should not be confused and should not be sitting here like, hey, why was the priority order not followed? Again, had they put D score was priority B, choosing Alex completely and totally makes sense. But they didn't. So now we're all left here wondering. And so I throw this question to you. Do you think that they followed their own selection procedures? Like, do you think I'm totally off my rocker? Do you agree with me? Do you think that this is incredibly confusing? And if so, who would you have picked to put on the senior national team? That's it for Office Hours this week. We'll see you next time.